Starting a new life as a high-ranking noble should be easy, but our MC is about to get a major reality check. Wolfgang rushes into the room to see his wife Katie and their brand new baby girl. Katie decides to name the little girl Louise, and Wolfgang is totally on board. But right as he agrees, his brain suddenly reboots with a lifetime of suppressed memories from a past life. Welcome to the Bernhard Kingdom, a place that looks like your standard high fantasy paradise. It has the massive castle and the scenic views, but life here is actually pretty tense. The kingdom is packed with 30 different dungeons, meaning monsters are an everyday threat. People only survive because every town is locked down behind massive magical barriers. Here's the kicker: this whole world is actually the setting of a popular otome game called Aofan. Wolfgang realizes he is not just in another world, he is inside a video game he used to play. Meet the man himself, Wolfgang Malleus Suntar, the acting head of the powerful Lehman Duke House. He is a full-blown reincarnator who just unlocked his secret gamer identity. It turns out his life is way more complicated than just being a noble. Wolfgang is officially the father of the game's ultimate villainess, his own daughter Louise. In his previous life, our MC was a total gaming addict who played everything. He spent his time clearing romance titles made for about the genre. One of those games was called Aofan. It looked like your typical dating sim filled with handsome guys, but there was more to it. The title was actually famous for its hardcore dungeon crawling mechanics. Wolfgang became so invested in the plot that he ended up buying the official lore books. The main story follows an innocent saint named Monica. She travels across the country to train while dating the various capture targets. Her job is to stop the monster stampedes from wiping out the human kingdom. That is the basic setup for the adventure he is trapped in now. This is where things get messy because his daughter is the rival character. Louise is destined to fight Monica over the hand of Prince Heinrich. The script always ends with her engagement getting cancelled and her being thrown out of the country. She is doomed to face total ruin as the ultimate villainess. A 4-year jump takes us to Louise's childhood, and the girl is already a handful. She is currently having a total meltdown, screaming her head off at her father. Wolfgang is left stunned by the sudden outburst as his daughter declares she hates everyone in the room. Even the mansion staff are at a loss on how to handle the little lady's tantrum. He tries to play the gentle dad card and get her to open up, but Louise is not having it. She shuts him down with a direct slap to the face, followed by another loud refusal to cooperate. There is a heavy reason for her anger, though. A month ago, the family was hit with tragedy when Louise's mother, Cassandra, passed away from a sudden epidemic. Back in the present, our MC nurses his stinging cheek while the butler, Christoph, checks in on him. Even with a red handprint on his face, he is more concerned about being called young master than the actual assault. Christoph cannot help but chuckle at the sheer power behind a 4-year-old strike. The maids just sigh at the sight of the old butler looking like a total mess after trying to manage the chaos. The butler suggests leaving Louise to the staff until she cools off, knowing how hard her mother's death still weighs on her. Wolfgang watches his daughter from a distance, stuck between giving her space and wanting to help. Our MC refuses to back down. Even with a fresh handprint on his face, he insists on going because of a promise he made to Caddy. In the original game, the first Wolfgang just ignored his daughter after his wife passed. Most nobleheads do not bother with parenting, but this version of him is built different. He sprints through the mansion calling for Lulu. He only recently got his memories back, and he is determined to not be that deadbeat dad. She is nowhere to be found inside. A sudden thought hits him as he looks toward the outdoor garden. Our boy is out of breath. He reminds himself that Lulu is only 4 and must be feeling incredibly lost right now. He finds her standing alone among the roses. She is just a confused kid trying to process the fact that her mom is suddenly gone. A wave of relief washes over him when he finally spots her. He kneels down to her level and mentions how much her mother loved this garden. Wolfgang finally breaks, the grief spilling over as he faces his daughter. The sudden shift leaves Louise frozen, her own defenses vanishing in an instant. He reaches out a trembling hand, trying to coax her back inside before the cold sets in. He even mentions the butler's concern to try and bridge the gap. Louise lashes out, screaming that she cannot stand being in a house that does not have her mother in it. It is a raw rejection that hits harder than any physical blow. Her outburst sends his glasses tumbling to the dirt with a sharp clatter. Louise stops in her tracks, the silence between them feeling heavier than any shout. Deep down, he knows they are carrying the exact same weight, whether this is a game or a political setup. The loss of his wife is a reality he cannot escape. She was more than just a duchess to him. She was the person he truly chose to love. Even now, he can still hear her voice echoing in his memories. He is haunted by the memories of their wedding and the short life they shared together. The hardest part is the realization that she will never laugh with him and Louise again. Lulu reaches out and gently pats his head, surprising him with a soft apology. He looks up with tears in his eyes, completely caught off guard by her kindness. She tears up as she admits she thought he was not sad about her mother being gone. The realization of how she perceived him hits him like a physical blow. Looking back at the funeral, his stoic face made it seem like he did not care at all. To a child, his composed silence looked more like indifference than strength. He explains that there were many guests that day and some were not there with good intentions. He was forced to play the part of a leader instead of a grieving husband. As the acting duke, he had to keep up appearances and hide his weakness from rival factions. Showing any grief would have invited his enemies to tear the house down. He realizes that his constant need to stay strong must have made him look cold and heartless to her. He was trying to protect her, but he only succeeded in pushing her away. He picks her up and assures her that she does not need to worry about such heavy things yet. That burden is for him to carry alone. Louise is totally caught off guard when he mentions a secret room. While he carries her off, he stops to grab his dropped glasses. They step into a room covered in portraits. Louise is wide-eyed as she sees her mother's face everywhere. Portraits of Cassandra fill every corner of the room. He admits he was way too embarrassed to show her this place before. Louise tilts her head in confusion. He finally reveals that he is the one who painted every single one of these. She cannot believe he did it all himself. Our boy is seriously struggling with the second-hand embarrassment right now. She thinks it is the coolest thing ever. He tries to downplay his skills, claiming they are not actually that good. Looking at the art, Louise feels like her mom is finally back home with them. Wolfgang watches her with a genuine smile, finally finding some peace. Our MC admits he has been an art hobbyist since his past life. He claims his skills are not that great, even though the room is full of masterpieces. He tells her she can pick any painting for her room. She is ready to choose, though he suggests a smaller piece might be better. Since a full canvas is a lot to carry, he suggests a custom locket. A portable miniature of her mother sounds like the perfect gift. While he wonders how to paint something that's small in this world, she notices a gap in the collection. She asks why there is not a single portrait of her parents together. He admits that being the only painter makes self-portraits a struggle. She demands a family piece where they are standing together, and he finally agrees. The vibe shifts as he brings up her past behavior. He reminds her that while they made up, she still owes the mansion staff a sincere apology. He tells her to meet him in the study once she is done. She sprints away to go make things right with everyone. Wolfgang is buried in paperwork until a sudden knock at the door breaks the silence. Christoph checks in to see if the Duke needs a coffee boost to get through the day. After thanking him for the drink, Wolfgang learns that his daughter is currently busy making rounds. She is going through the mansion to apologize to every servant she previously snapped at. Christoph notes that the little lady probably left a few bruises during her tantrums, but it is all part of the job. He admits things have been rough for the staff since the passing of the Duchess. This does not sit right with our MC, who hates the idea of his employees just enduring abuse. Coming from a modern family in Japan, he just wants his home to be a place without any hostility. Christoph brings up the secret room and asks if he finally showed it to the young lady. Wolfgang gives a small smile, realizing he should have shared those memories with her much sooner. The butler teases him for finally sorting out his own heart as well. Wolfgang gets annoyed and tells him to drop the young master title, but the old man just keeps the jokes coming. Everything fades to black as a familiar voice suddenly echoes through his mind. A soft memory of someone calling his nickname pulls him away from the present. Our MC relives the day his heart broke. Cassandra tells him she is worried he will follow her into the grave if she disappears. She teases him for being a total crybaby. Wolfgang wipes his eyes, admitting he only lets his guard down like this when he is with her. Cassandra pulls him closer with a weak smile. She has one last favor to ask before her time runs out. Back in their room, she notices him watching over her and little Louise. Even now, she is the one telling him to eat and sleep properly, because he always pushes himself too hard. Looking down at their sleeping daughter, Wolfgang tries to act tough and says he is fine. Cassandra just smiles, knowing he is lying through his teeth. She asks him to promise he will never leave Lulu alone no matter what happens. Our boy starts to panic, begging her to stop talking about death and reminding her of the picnic they planned for the spring. Tears stream down his face as he reminds her they were supposed to watch their daughter grow up together. Cassandra just watches him, softly calling out his nickname one last time. Flashback to the heaviest moment of his life. Caddy makes her final request, begging him to keep their daughter safe. He realizes he is the only family she has left now. This promise is for life. Back in the present, the little lady makes her entrance. Talk about some major character development. An unexpected apology follows for those past tantrums, catching the adults off guard. The determination is real. She even promises to hit the books just so she can be useful to her father. Wolfgang can only wish Caddy was here to see how far their daughter has come. Victory juice from Christoph makes the moment even sweeter. Everything else fades away compared to the treasure Caddy left behind. She snaps him out of his thoughts with a puzzled question. If she is truly destined for ruin, he is ready to smash that fate to pieces. It is the promise he made to Caddy, and he keeps it as he calls Lulu over. Everything is for her future. He makes a silent vow that he will never let her become a villainess. Fast forward 2 years. Lulu is 6 now and finally starting her training as a proper lady. She is crushing her etiquette lessons, which has Wolfgang completely melting in the background. Seeing his daughter succeed has him acting like a total fanboy. Reality check hits when his brother tells him to fix his face. Apparently, he was looking way too doting for a high-ranking noble. Meet Marcus, the 17-year-old younger brother who handles the family reality checks. He is 12 years younger than Wolfgang and knows exactly how soft our boy has become. Their parents died in an accident over a decade ago, leaving them as each other's only support. Wolfgang admits he can't help himself because Lulu is just too precious. Marcus clears his throat and tries to bring some gravity back to the room. He has a serious favor to ask and needs the Duke to stop being a fanboy for 5 minutes. The Duke reads him like a book and kills the topic instantly. If this is another attempt to skip out on the title succession, it is a hard pass. Wolfgang is just chilling with his tea while Marcus tries to get his attention. It turns out our guy is only the acting Duke because Marcus is the real heir to the Lehman throne. The current setup is temporary. Wolfgang holds the title until Marcus hits 18, and then he plans to slide back into his original count title. Wolfgang drops a hard reality check. He asks Marcus if he remembers the real reason their parents chose him to lead instead of the older brother. Marcus tries to argue that Wolfgang is a goat at everything else. The Duke just shuts him down with the cold hard facts about his lack of magic. High magic power is the ultimate status symbol in this kingdom. If you're a noble and you can't cast, you're basically invisible in high society. Wolfgang was actually hyped up as a saintess as a kid because of his massive mana reserves. The expectations from everyone around him were through the roof. The hype died fast when he could not even manifest a basic shield by age 10. It turns out he has all the mana in the world but 0 ways to actually use it. Marcus is absolutely stressing because Wolfgang has been running the territory like a total pro for a decade. Even if their parents chose the younger brother for his magic power, Wolfgang is the one with all the real management experience. He tries to guilt-trip his brother, pointing out how much the people actually love him. A sudden swap to some kid the commoners do not even know would just cause a massive panic. Wolfgang promises to take the transition slow, But the heavy business talk gets cut short. Lulu bursts into the room to greet her uncle and effectively ends the argument. She is on her best behavior and drops a super polite greeting after finishing her studies. She really wanted to see her uncle and show off her refined lady skills. The two of them are absolutely finished. Both the doting dad and the uncle have completely melted at how cute she is being right now. Marcus tries to compliment his brother for being awesome without magic, but he might have leaked too much info. Lulu catches the comment and is left looking completely confused about her dad being magicless. She asks about his firepower if it is not actually magic, and Wolfgang decides it is time for a lore drop. He admits that while his magic power is 0, his eyes were discovered to be a bit special during his student days. He reveals the secret of his mystic eyes, a power that ignites anything he looks at with enough will. Marcus explains that despite having the power of fire, it is not actually classified as magic. Lulu is shook, struggling to understand how magical flames do not count as the real deal. People used to find the power creepy since objects would just spontaneously combust. Our boy has better control now, but those glasses are mandatory to keep his gaze from accidentally burning the house down. Lulu gets a lightbulb moment and suggests he should just fake it. The Duke is caught off guard as she proposes a tactical deception. She thinks that if everyone believes he is a legit mage, his reputation would skyrocket. She even suggests using a prop rod to really sell the fantasy book vibe. Marcus is actually sold on the idea, realizing they could pass it off as high-level silent magic. He is hyped at the possibility of his brother finally getting the respect he deserves. Wolfgang is losing it, overwhelmed that his daughter is working this hard for him. Marcus has to remind him to stay grounded before he melts into a puddle of doting dad tears. Marcus points out that lugging a magic staff around 24/7 would be a pain. Lulu doesn't care and suggests they focus on finding a super cool pose instead. Marcus officially calls for a strategy meeting to design the perfect activation pose for his brother's mystic eyes. Wolfgang breaks a sweat and tries to shut it down before things get too embarrassing. Marcus keeps the pressure on, telling him it is fine to have some fun. He wants his brother to finally shut up everyone who looked down on him for lacking magic. Wolfgang shoots down one of the suggestions, refusing to budge on the cringiest parts. Marcus is already dreaming about his brother taking over the dukedom and restoring their family honor. In the original game world of Oyfin, Wolfgang was the one who seized the title from his brother to become the duke. That version of history led to his daughter Lulu becoming the notorious villainess. Letting the original plot play out is a death sentence for his daughter's future. Avoiding the dukedom is his way of resisting the game's script and keeping Lulu off the villainous route. A few days pass at the mansion. Wolfgang sips his tea while watching Marcus and Lulu play. He just hopes the pose they came up with isn't too weird for a high-ranking noble. Gossip travels fast in these circles. Marquise Muller mentions that word of their reputation has already reached her territory. The ladies are obsessed with the new tech. Countess Becker asks about that water pump designed by Zonter County. The hype is unavoidable. Countess Voigt confirms that everyone is talking about it back at her place too. Our boy is fighting for his life in this conversation. He just laughs nervously while the praise keeps piling up. He plays it off as a total fluke that just happened to work out. On the inside, he is realizing his past life memories are actually coming in clutch. It is finally time for the tea party. Lulu was invited to young Emma Fisher is already full of energy and asks if the group can go play in the garden. The hostess gives the kids the green light to head out. She tells them to be careful with their dresses, since they are supposed to be acting like proper young ladies now. Wolfgang sends Lulu off to have some fun, wishing her a good time while she heads out to play with her friends. The local ladies are already obsessed with the handsome Duke, and their constant praise is starting to make him sweat. Our boy is absolutely fighting for his life, wondering why he thought attending a girls' tea party was a good idea. Marquise Fisher assumes he is just being a doting father, completely unaware that he is internally screaming over his failed escape plan. Seated at a table full of noblewomen, the MC realizes he has never felt more out of place in his entire life. The atmosphere grows heavy as the conversation turns to the late Duchess Cassandra and the grief she left behind. The guests mention how much they admired his devotion to his wife, catching him off guard with a sudden reminder of their past. He admits that seeing how others perceived him makes him happy, noting it has been 2 years since he finally found his footing. The ladies hide behind their fans, whispering that little Louise must be lonely and noting how young he still is. Realizing they are pushing for a remarriage, he sips his tea while regretting that he let his guard down for even a second. He explains that the portraits he painted of Cassandra have helped comfort his daughter, catching the guests by surprise. The ladies are shocked by his hidden talent and immediately demand a viewing, making him realize he just made a huge mistake. They suggest hosting the next gathering at his home to see the art, but their planning is interrupted by a sharp scream. Everyone stands up in a panic as young Emma comes running toward the table, screaming for her mother. Out of nowhere, a giant bird monster crashes the party and snatches Emma in its claws. Madam Fisher can only scream in horror while our boy wonders how a random boss fight just spawned in the middle of a garden. Madam Fisher is about to lose it, but the MC keeps his cool. He warns her to hold back her magic because one wrong blast could end badly for the kid. She is desperate and terrified because every second that bird flies higher makes the situation more lethal. Time for the Duke to take charge. He tells the black-haired knight to get in position under the monster, knowing Emma is just one slip away from a fatal drop. The knight locks in and prepares for the catch of a lifetime. Wolfgang gives the final green light to secure the girl at all costs. Emma is screaming for help as she dangles in the air. The MC ditches the glasses and reveals his secret weapon, explaining that his mystic eyes can pinpoint and incinerate targets with 0 collateral damage. He locks his sights on the beast and lets it rip. With one simple command, he triggers the burn. The beast lets out a deafening screech as it struggles to stay in the air after the attack. As Emma falls from the monster's claws, the knight moves like lightning to catch her before she hits the ground. Emma breaks down in tears as she is finally returned to safety and reunited with her mother. Watching the happy reunion, our MC takes a moment to adjust his glasses and breathe a sigh of relief. But his relief vanishes instantly when he realizes his own nowhere to be found. He starts shouting her name into the garden, his heart pounding with the fear that she was caught in the crossfire. A tug on his coat reveals she was hiding behind him the whole time, and he quickly pulls her close to promise that she is safe. Lulu has literal stars in her eyes as she screams about how cool her dad just was. Our boy is totally lost when his daughter claims he did a secret pose he and his brother Marcus made up back in the day. Seeing that smile is a total critical hit, and he tells her he just wants to be a father she can actually be proud of. The vibes shift quick when he realizes a mountain dungeon monster showing up near the capital makes 0 sense with the royal barriers active. Lord Fisher shows up looking absolutely stressed, tripping over himself to thank the Duke for the save. The situation gets even worse when he reveals this wasn't a solo act as another beast attacked his eldest daughter over at the stables. Wolfgang is stunned to hear about the double spawn while Fisher explains he was busy handling the first monster until he heard the garden was under fire too. Fisher explains that hearing the Duke was handling the garden beast gave him the green light to rush to the stables. He didn't have to hesitate for a single second. Our MC tells him to raise his head because the girls are safe and that is all that matters. Fisher admits that without the Duke's help both of his daughters would have been toast. The news that the wounds are shallow and won't even leave scars hits Wolfgang hard. He suddenly remembers a grim piece of game lore. In the original timeline, Emma appears later as a support character with a large scar on her face. This attack was supposed to be the moment her life changed for the worse. The game lore says she fell from a high place after being attacked by a bird monster. She actually felt fortunate just to have survived the ordeal. Her sister had it even worse, losing a leg and having her heart broken. The original Wolfgang never even attended this party because he was busy ignoring his own daughter. It clicks for our boy that his presence and solid coordination just saved 2 girls from a lifetime of trauma. He is officially changing the script. Our boy realized his actions could actually rewrite the script and change the future. The tension finally started to break as the girls reunited while the adults gathered their thoughts. It was the first sign that things were actually going to be different this time. Emma tried to act tough by downplaying the whole ordeal like it was nothing. Marquise Fisher turned to our MC with deep gratitude for his intervention. She knew that any alternative could have ended in a total disaster for everyone involved. Wolfgang kept things humble and brushed off the praise being thrown his way. He admitted that keeping a level head would have been impossible if his own daughter were the one in trouble. It was a rare moment of genuine honesty from the stoic Duke. The priority was clearly the safety of the girls, but the timing of the attack was still super suspicious. Having monsters spawn this close to the capital was a massive red flag that couldn't be ignored. Seeing this outcome gave our boy a genuine sense of hope for the future. He finally caught a glimpse of a path that didn't end in tragedy for his daughter. The script was officially being rewritten one step at a time. The chapter opens with Lord and Lady Fisher literally folding in half to thank our boy. They are beyond grateful for him stepping in during the monster attack the other day. Wolfgang is completely losing it and tells them to please stop bowing before it gets weird. He tries to keep his cool by claiming he was just doing his duty as the acting Duke. The focus shifts to Louise, who is more worried about her friends than herself right now. Lord Fisher feels terrible that a kid her age had to go through such a terrifying ordeal. Turns out little Emma was throwing a massive tantrum at home because she wanted to join the visit. Her mom just laughs about how much energy the girl has despite the recent chaos. Lord Fisher mentions that his other daughter, Rena, has already made a full recovery. He is incredibly proud that she kept her head and used magic to fight back during the attack. Wolfgang can't help but smirk at the intense proud parent energy coming off the man. Lord Fisher gets a little embarrassed once he realizes he has been bragging about his kid for 10 minutes straight. Louise remembers meeting Rena once before back when her mother was still around. It sounds like the girl is a genuine prodigy when it comes to handling magic. Louise is already demanding a big sister after seeing Emma and Rena together. Wolfgang looks like he is regretting every life choice. The Fishers extend a warm invite for another visit once the dust settles. They really want the whole family back for more tea and snacks. Word of his monster hunting skills has already spread to the local gossip mill. Every noblewoman in the area wants a piece of the action now. Louise is not helping at all and doubles down on how cool her dad is. Wolfgang just wants to disappear into the floor. Realizing he is becoming a local celebrity, Wolfgang pivots the conversation to the actual monster problem. Lord Fisher's face immediately turns serious. The whole country is in a state of shock over the incident. Monsters should not be able to bypass the capital-heavy security barriers like that. An urgent investigation reveals the terrifying truth. One of the main barrier stones protecting the estate was shattered. Our MC is absolutely shook when he hears the news. The barrier stone wasn't just broken, it was intentionally destroyed by someone. These barrier stones act as magic lifelines to repel monsters. So having one shattered is a huge deal for national security. Lord Fisher mentions the Emergency Noble Council, while Wolfgang wonders if someone deliberately sent monsters to hit the family. Marquise Fisher shuts down the serious talk before it ruins the vibe, telling them they're just going to make little Lulu anxious. Lulu is genuinely worried about whether Emma's home is in trouble. But Lord Fisher quickly apologizes and tells her not to stress. The dads flash a reassuring smile, promising her that they are here to handle everything. The next morning, Wolfgang gets dripped out in formal wear while Christoph keeps teasing him with the young master title. Getting dressed in formal gear is a major drag, but Wolfgang has to look the part for his meeting. He hears a knock at the door and realizes Lulu is already awake. Lulu bursts in to say good morning, but immediately short-circuits. Seeing her dad in his high-rank gear has her completely starstruck. She is so overwhelmed by the vibe that she can barely even look at him. Our MC just stands there wondering if he accidentally offended her with his new drip. He nervously explains he is heading to the castle and asks if the outfit is too much. Lulu finally drops the shy act and beams with pride. She admits he just looked so cool that it took her breath away. That is a critical hit to his heart. Wolfgang is officially done for because his daughter is way too precious for this world. After receiving a sweet mission to keep their friends safe, it is time for the Duke to get to work. He sets off for the capital with enough motivation to carry him through the whole day. The carriage rolls down the road as we get a quick lore drop. In this kingdom, Nobles hold all the power because they are the only ones with enough magic to keep the monster barriers running. Those with the most juice are called saints, and they spend their lives traveling the country to keep the defenses charged. Our boy remembers that the original game protagonist was one of these legendary commoner-born saintesses. Since these magic users are basically the country's life support, they are completely indispensable. Contemplating the heavy responsibility on his shoulders, the weight of his role becomes clear. When major trouble hits, every noble head gets summoned to the castle for a formal council. The carriage pulls up to the massive royal palace and our MC makes his entrance as the acting Duke of Lehman. As soon as he arrives, he gets greeted by a familiar face. The mood shifts immediately as the pressure of high-level social obligations starts to set in. Meet Peter Burnt, a high-ranking duke who seems way too happy to see our boy. He brings up how rare it is for such a recluse to finally show his face at a banquet. The friendly act isn't landing at all. He internally labels this guy as a total pain while telling him to shut up since he is bad at socializing. Peter mentions that Wolfgang's younger brother is set to succeed him soon. Internally, our boy labels this guy as Pebble because he is a total pest. He keeps a fake smile on his face while explaining that his retirement might be a nice change of pace. These two have been dealing with each other since their school days and the annoying energy is constant. He sticks his tongue out at the guy just as a trumpet blast cuts through the air. Peter acts like his heart is broken, wondering how his friend could be so cold. Ignoring the drama, he tells Lord Burnt to head to his seat before the council begins. The room is starting to fill up with important faces. Pebble waves goodbye while complaining that the trumpet interrupted their rare hangout. Wolfgang looks like he is about to reach his limit. He finally settles into his chair with a single thought. He needs to vanish the second this meeting is over before Pebble catches him again. The giant doors slide open as everyone stands to attention. A herald shouts out that the king has officially entered the room. The royal council is officially in session as the king takes center stage. Looking down at the room, he tells everyone to raise their heads. He starts off with an apology for the sudden summons, revealing that the monster attack on the Fisher House was no accident. Investigations show their barrier stone was actually destroyed on purpose. Our boy is stunned by the news, realizing the Fisher family wasn't the only target. It turns out barrier stones across multiple noble estates have been taken out. The room breaks out into whispers as the king explains that the security systems were supposedly working perfectly. This means the intruders bypassed everything without a single alarm going off. Every noble house was ordered to perform a security check immediately. However, the king trails off as the situation gets deeper. Wolfgang realizes things are way worse than he thought. He starts thinking about the area lock, a high-level magic device that prevents any kind of physical or magical attack within its range. These locks are specifically meant to protect barrier stones since they are so fragile. He can't even wrap his head around how a culprit could disable a lock that stops all combat. Every noble house gets to pick its own custom deactivation code for their area locks. Methods range from complex wind magic hand seals to just singing the national anthem perfectly. These codes are strictly kept as oral traditions passed down through families. If someone tries to hack the system and fails, a warning is sent straight to the owner. Our boy is starting to sweat as he realizes the scale of the problem. One leak is a mistake, but multiple houses getting bypassed means their entire security system is compromised. The king admits they can't find a single pattern among the houses that were hit. He asks the room if anyone has noticed anything even slightly unusual lately. A young noble named Baron Hoffman raises his hand to speak. He mentions that after chatting with other victims, he found a common thread. It turns out most of the affected houses had just replaced their area locks during routine maintenance. The merchant who delivered the new gear apparently said something very strange before leaving. Every single victim was left with the same creepy blessing. May something very good happen to you. Hoffman drops the ultimate bombshell. It turns out every single family that got hit heard the exact same weird blessing from their merchants. The room erupts into a frenzy before the king shuts it down with a single command for silence. He orders anyone who heard the phrase to stay behind for questioning. Everyone else is told to go home and double-check their own security just in case. The meeting is officially over for now. As the crowd clears, Lord Fisher approaches our boy and addresses him as the acting Duke. It is a sign of deep respect for the man who saved his children. Fisher admits he heard the creepy blessing too, but just thought it was a new polite phrase. He is starting to realize that a simple thank you might have been a target marker. Suddenly a young noble comes sprinting into the hall like his hair is on fire. He is shouting for Wolfgang at the top of his lungs. It is Marcus, and he is completely losing it. He is terrified that their own barrier stones were targeted because he heard the same phrase before leaving home. Wolfgang keeps a tight lid on his household secrets. When Bernd asks if they received the same weird merchant blessing, he just flashes a fake smile and says no one said anything to them. He decides he is done with the pleasantries for today while Fisher tries to figure out who is behind the security breach. Wolfgang announces he is going to start digging for his own answers. Bernd skips out with a loud wave promising to catch them at the next party. Fisher watches him go with a sweat drop, and Wolfgang can only apologize for the guy being such a handful. Fisher admits he was surprised to see the acting Duke show so much personality toward another noble. Wolfgang breaks into a cold sweat, wondering if his mask of composure is starting to crack. Turns out these two were actually classmates back in the day. Wolfgang figures Bernd just hates seeing him in the driver's seat. But Fisher thinks there is a different vibe going on between them. With the assembly finally over, Wolfgang plans to stay hidden in his office as much as possible. Since Marcus is the true heir, he will be the one stuck attending all the upcoming social events alone. Back at the Lehman mansion, the quiet life is already a distant memory. Bernd has invited himself over for a tea session and is already demanding Wolfgang's full attention. Bro is making himself comfortable while the butler keeps the tea flowing. Bernd is acting like he owns the place while our boy's staff does all the work. Our boy is watching the vibes, and they are definitely off. He can't figure out why this rival Duke is suddenly camping out in his living room. Marcus drops the latest news, reporting that the academy is in a panic over broken barrier locks. It turns out even the teachers are starting to notice the sabotage. Wolfgang realizes the threat is way closer than he thought. If stones are being broken without anyone noticing, the whole kingdom is in trouble. Marcus points out how much they rely on those magic stones. If the monsters break through the weakened lines, their entire territory is basically an open buffet. The MC tries to find a pattern but hits a dead end, since the victims and merchants are all different. He decides the only way to be safe is to manually inspect every single stone in the area. Marcus explains that the Magic Guild supplies everyone regardless of the merchant. Wolfgang has a lightbulb moment and realizes the real common factor is the transport company. Wolfgang connects the dots. Even if the merchants change, the logistics probably lead back to one source. Teamwork makes the dream work. Marcus is going through official channels while our boy handles the personal letters to the big names. Back at the mansion, the rival Duke is making himself way too comfortable. Wolfgang is already regretting his decision to reach out to this guy. He tried to keep it strictly business via mail, but Pebble just would not take the hint. The dude insisted on showing up in person and making things awkward. After dodging the request 3 times, our boy finally gave in. Now he is paying the price for his own kindness. Just when the silence gets too loud, a knock at the door changes the whole dynamic. Lulu is asking to come in, and she definitely has perfect timing. The door opens to show the little lady herself. The maid is full of apologies, but it is too late to stop the cute ambush. Lulu is standing her ground, determined to give the guest a proper greeting. Wolfgang is having an internal crisis because he really does not want his daughter meeting this sketchy noble. Peter is acting like he is the main character of a drama. He claims he traveled all this way just to personally deliver the answers Wolfgang wanted. Wolfgang is not buying the hype. He reminds this dude that a simple letter would have saved everyone a lot of time and energy. The host is officially done with the chatter. He tells Peter to say what he needs to say and leave. But the guest just wants to keep vibing over tea. Seeing no other way out, Wolfgang asks if his daughter can come in and say hello. Peter is all smiles, clearly ready for the distraction. Lulu walks in and hits them with a flawless curtsy. She politely introduces herself, and the elegance is on another level. Our MC is melting into a puddle of pride. He thinks her perfect manners are way too good for a guy like Pebble. Peter introduces himself with a smile, claiming he is Wolfgang's childhood friend and a duke. Our MC is internally short-circuiting because he does not remember signing up for this friendship. Lulu is hooked immediately, asking if they were together back in their academy days. Peter leans in and confirms it without missing a beat. The guest takes it a step further, declaring himself as the father's one and only best friend. Wolfgang can only watch in disbelief as this dude just invents a whole backstory. While Peter strikes a confident pose, our boy is having a mental crisis in the shadows. He is genuinely wondering when this man decided they were anything more than business rivals. Peter offers to spill all the tea about her parents' school days over actual tea. Lulu is officially sold, clenching her fists with pure excitement. The visit ends up stretching until sunset because Lulu cannot stop firing off questions. She is desperate to hear every detail about her father and late mother's past. Peter handles the interrogation like a pro, answering every single question with a charming smile. He tells the little lady that talking with her makes the time fly by. Peter decides it is finally time to bounce, leaving Lulu standing there in shock. The sunset signals the end of their long chat as the guest prepares to exit. Lulu begs for a sequel to those academy stories and Peter is more than happy to oblige. She hits him with a high-energy farewell, beaming with joy as he makes his way out. Once they are alone, Wolfgang admits he is impressed by the guy's sharp memory. He keeps a close watch on Peter, questioning why a supposed casual acquaintance remembers so much about his past. The mood takes a sharp turn when Peter claims Wolfgang would not have recognized him even back then. Our boy is frozen, his suspicion hitting an all-time high as the vibe in the room shifts. Peter drops the mask and addresses the acting duke with a knowing look. He points out that while Wolfgang knows the name Burnt, he has absolutely no memory of the face he is looking at. Peter is keeping that smug energy high. He might be rotten, but his high noble status is the real deal. The secret is out and our MC is desperate to know how he got caught. Peter takes it back to their academy days, remembering how the supposed saint avoided everyone like the plague. Peter points out that while the MC could hold a conversation, he never once started one. The vibe only shifted once a specific name was actually dropped. The trap is shut as Peter asks if the MC is basically blind to faces without a name tag. This guy's memory is way too cracked for comfort, and our boy knows it. Here's the big reveal. Wolfgang literally cannot recognize human faces, seeing them as nothing but a blurry mess he can never memorize. This condition was so intense it even applied to his own family. It was the hidden reason his parents never wanted him to inherit the family title. A royal mage eventually tracked the problem back to its source. It turns out his very own mystic eyes were the ones causing the permanent blur. Wolfgang drops the brutal truth about his mystic eyes. These things are literally cursed to incinerate anything he truly recognizes, forcing him to keep the world as a blur. He has to keep everyone at arm's length just to keep them alive. Back at the academy, Peter recalls how Wolfgang and his fiancée Cassandra were basically strangers at first. Despite their engagement, they barely interacted. She was the only one who refused to be ignored, constantly pushing past his cold exterior to reach him. Her persistence was something else. It finally paid off when he spoke her name, making her the first and only human he ever truly acknowledged. That one moment changed everything. Peter is actually getting emotional over the story, but our MC is just creeped out. He realized this guy was watching his relationship with Caddy way too closely for comfort. The mystery of how she broke the spell still bugs him. Our boy is just confused, but Peter leans in with a smirk. He tells him to memorize his face next. Peter is laying it on thick, acting hurt that our MC cannot even recognize his bestie. He claims he loves him like a brother, but the vibe is straight up chaotic. Then comes the curveball. Peter claims Wolfgang actually saved his life once, leaving our boy completely stuck on when that ever happened. Realizing how late it is getting, Peter finally gets up to leave. He trades some polite words with the butler before pausing like he just remembered something huge. He drops a lead about a merchant using a shipping company called Jisha Height. Apparently, he went digging for info on some unusual activity that happened recently. Back then, the company hired a couple of suspicious temp workers. One was a fierce-looking dude, and the other was a black-haired boy who definitely did not look related to him. Peter walks off with a laugh, leaving our MC stunned. He admits he almost forgot the real reason he even came to visit in the first place. Standing by the door, our boy is just frustrated. That guy was definitely having way too much fun messing with his head as the carriage rolls away. Back in his room, our boy hears the echo of his own footsteps as the door shuts. He catches a glimpse of the portrait on the wall and lets out a heavy sigh. Those old stories from Pebble really hit different tonight. He remembers the early days when he could not even look her in the eye. The guilt was so heavy he could not even recognize his own fiancée at first. But Caddy never gave up on him. She reached out and grabbed his hand, promising they would figure it out together. They found their answer in art. He started painting her over and over just to keep her image close. Slowly, her face finally became clear to him. Seeing her hold their baby was the ultimate reward for all that effort. He smiles at the memories, knowing exactly what he is fighting for now. Reality pulls him back as he sits on the edge of the bed. He wants to stay in the past. But the new lead from Pebble on the monster attacks cannot wait. A rough-looking guy and a black-haired boy. These are the two suspicious temp workers who might be the key to this whole mess. Wolfgang connects the dots between the suspicious shipping company and that black-haired boy. This kid might actually be Carl, one of the original capture targets from the game. Among all the high-class romance options in AoFan, Carl was the outlier. He was a slum orphan tied to an elite assassin guild instead of living the royal life. Black hair and eyes are a massive red flag in this world since everyone else is so colorful. If the timeline is still holding up, the kid should only be around 11 years old right now. The Assassin Guild is basically the dark web of the capital, taking any dirty job for the right price. The weird part is that Carl wasn't even supposed to join their ranks until he was 15. If he's already mixed up with them 4 years early, it would definitely explain why the guild is linked to these monster incidents. Elsewhere, a carriage pulls up to the mansion as the next morning begins. Wolfgang sets a hard rule for Louise to stay glued to his side until they get back home. She looks ready for whatever comes next and gives him a solid yes. Wolfgang warns Louise that things are about to get weird and she needs to stay chill. She gives him a solid yes as they prepare for their next move. Our boy heads straight for the orphanage where the game version of Carl usually hangs out. This is where the hunt officially begins. He uses the classic noble strategy of making a donation to get his foot in the door. The staff is more than happy to welcome a rich duke with open arms. Even with his face blindness, the game memories act like a cheat code for identifying major characters. If he can spot a tiny Louise, finding Carl should be a breeze. He recalls how Carl is a cheerful guy on the outside but a total demon in battle. Saving him from a life of crime now could change everything before he becomes too far gone. Changing the script this much is risky, but it is a price he is willing to pay to protect his daughter. Having a future elite assassin on her side would be the ultimate insurance policy. The carriage finally rolls into the Hain district and the vibes are immediately off. The locals do not look like they get many high-class visitors. Wolfgang peers out of the rattling carriage at the sketchy neighborhood and notes that the area is just as rough as he expected. The crime rate here is through the roof and our boy is already regretful about bringing little Louise into such a dangerous district. Louise isn't backing down though, and she begs her father to let her stay by his side. She stands her ground, explaining that she needs to learn about the real world if she is ever going to be a real help to him. Completely defeated by her cuteness, he admits he cannot say no to his perfect daughter just as the carriage clatters to a stop. They arrive at an orphanage attached to a mountain shrine, where a cheerful woman with large horns is waiting to welcome them. Our boy notes how rare it is to see a member of the dragon folk in this country as he asks the staff to confirm his donation later. Louise is out here being a total angel, presenting a mountain of home-baked treats she made for the kids. She's a little nervous about it, but her heart is in the right place. The MC explains that she spent all day yesterday in the kitchen with the maids to make sure every snack was perfect. They even sat down as a family to discuss exactly what the kids would like most. The orphanage staff is delighted by the gift, but she warns Lulu that meeting the kids directly might be a bit of a shock. Our boy isn't worried and knows his daughter can handle it. She's incredibly grateful for the extra hands since they're short-staffed and apologizes for all the trouble. Wolfgang just smiles it off, happy to be of service. Louise isn't done yet, shyly offering up a stack of her own favorite picture books to share with everyone. The woman is touched and promises to read them aloud since most of the kids haven't learned to read yet. Lulu listens intently, starting to see how different their world is. Wolfgang points out that while the family is providing official support, this whole trip was Lulu's idea. She's the one who insisted on coming down here to help out personally. The group follows the staff member inside as she leads them further into the heart of the orphanage. Walking through the worn-down halls, our boy notices the human and beast-kin children living in the bare minimum conditions. The woman calls everyone together, announcing that the Count and his daughter have arrived with a massive haul of donations. Lulu finally gets her chance to shine, shyly offering the homemade sweets she spent the whole day preparing. A mini riot breaks out as the kids start brawling over the snacks and Wolfgang realizes they have a sugar riot on their hands. Lulu shuts the chaos down in a heartbeat, yelling for everyone to chill out because she brought enough for the whole crowd. The head of the orphanage steps in to finish the job, telling the group to behave and get into a proper line. Wolfgang is relieved that Lulu's donation did not turn into a riot, noting that sugar is still a rare luxury for these kids. Despite her noble upbringing, Lulu keeps her cool and handles the commotion like a pro as she hands out the treats. Our MC realizes his daughter is way more capable than he thought. While the orphans enjoy their snacks, he remembers his actual mission and starts scanning for his target. The orphanage director thanks him for the massive carry, but Wolfgang is already looking for a specific face in the crowd. She explains that most of these kids have tragic pasts and usually stay shut down, so seeing them this hyped is a huge deal. Our boy offers to do more to help out, but the director insists they have already gone above and beyond. Wolfgang starts overthinking the local politics of helping only one group. His train of thought is cut short when Lulu suddenly shouts for him. Wolfgang is caught off guard when Lulu calls him over, but she is way too hyped to be ignored. She drags a nervous hooded kid toward him, claiming his magic is on another level. Our boy is stunned when he sees a microscopic rose resting on a fingertip. He cannot believe his eyes, wondering if roses are even supposed to be that tiny. The kid shyly admits he wanted to thank Lulu for the treats with a gift. Lulu is losing her mind, explaining that he turned a regular flower into this tiny masterpiece using pure magic. Wolfgang points out the flower came from the courtyard, but the kid is not even impressed with himself. He actually apologizes for failing, since he was trying to shrink it even further for a pressed flower project. The director steps in to explain that the boy has zero talent for normal spells, but he is a god at shrinking objects. Wolfgang realizes this is not a common skill and asks for the kid's name. The boy pulls back his hood, revealing a face that immediately sets off alarm bells for our MC. He introduces himself simply as Carl, a kid with no last name. One look at those black eyes and black hair confirms the worst for Wolfgang. This is the same Carl from the game lore, and finding him here confirms he is a major player in this world. Wolfgang is spinning because this shrinking magic was never in the game lore, making him wonder what else has changed. He looks at the locket and sees a path forward while Carl nervously accepts the challenge. Our boy introduces himself with his full name and a confident grin, instantly shifting the mood. He tells the kids they are about to start a business that will shake the foundation of the entire region. We kicks off with Wolfgang dropping a total bombshell, announcing a business plan that will change the entire district forever. Carl and Louise are left staring in total shock at the Duke's wild ambitions. Our MC keeps it real, explaining that he's been searching for shrinking magic to fulfill a personal goal. The orphanage director is clearly struggling to keep up with the conversation. Holding up the shrunken rose, Wolfgang points out that Carl's talent is exactly what he needs to succeed. He mentions taking Carl into the house but leaves the offer hanging in the air. The reality of the situation hits the other kids hard, and they start panicking, worried that Carl is about to abandon them for a fancy noble life. Wolfgang doubles down on the proposal while Carl struggles to find his voice. The pressure is on for our future assassin to make a life-changing choice. Wolfgang smiles, already knowing Carl's heart from the original game script. This kid never actually wanted power, he just wanted to save his friends from the crushing weight of poverty. In the original timeline, Carl gave every penny he earned from illegal jobs back to the slums just to keep his family fed. He only chose the path of a killer because he had zero other options to get that kind of cash. Wolfgang knows Carl's heart is too big to just walk away and leave his friends behind in poverty. Our MC has a better plan than just adoption. He suggests starting a business right there in the district so everyone can have a job. Best part is he is footing the entire bill. Carl is totally stunned by the offer. He never imagined his shrinking magic could be the key to saving everyone's future. Wolfgang confirms his goal but says they need more than just one trick. He wants to find out what else these people can bring to the table. The plan is to scout for every unique skill in the orphanage to find new business ideas. One kid is already sold and starts shouting in excitement. One boy claims he is a track star while a little girl shows off her sewing skills. The energy in the room is shifting fast. Suddenly every child is jumping in to flex their talents from singing to drawing. The director watches on with a huge smile as the room erupts with new ideas. Wolfgang apologizes for the sudden visit before explaining his vision. He believes the orphanage needs to move past simple donations and find a path toward real independence. He asks to borrow the director's local wisdom for the project. His plan is to unite the local nobles and start a business that benefits everyone in the district. The director takes a moment to soak in the proposal. She smiles warmly and formally accepts the count's offer. She promises that both she and the temple priests will give their full cooperation. Seeing Wolfgang's foresight has clearly won her over. There is a catch, as she warns that some people might resent a noble meddling in their land. She promises to do her best to persuade the locals and smooth things over. After the business talk concludes, Wolfgang drops a bombshell. He asks to bring Carl back to his house, leaving the poor kid totally stunned. Wolfgang leans in and calls Carl by name. He explains that he wants to be the boy's very first customer and officially requests a job. Wolfgang keeps it professional by offering a real reward for his help. Carl can barely believe he is actually getting paid for his unique magic. The prospect of earning real money changes everything for the kid. Wolfgang explains that paying for power is just good business and suggests a formal contract with a priest as a witness. The director accepts the deal on the spot. She officially gives her blessing in the name of her god. The final invitation is extended as Wolfgang asks if the boy is ready to join them. Carl officially commits to the team without a second thought. Louise is clearly hyped to have a new friend around. The news of Carl landing a job from the count sends the other kids into a frenzy of cheers. Even the director gets in on the action by jokingly asking for some souvenirs. One of the girls can only laugh at how fast things are moving. Louise is practically glowing as she confirms if their new recruit is really coming home with them. Wolfgang gives her all the credit for finding him as they celebrate their win. It is a wholesome moment for the father-daughter duo. Louise realizes that Carl's help might finally make her father's dreams a reality. Wolfgang laughs and confirms that it really is all thanks to her efforts. The vibes are immaculate as they celebrate the successful recruitment. The high of the moment fades slightly as our MC remembers he technically went rogue on this decision. He starts sweating bullets just thinking about the earful he is going to get from his butler later. Even a duke has to answer to someone. Wolfgang keeps the momentum going and tells Carl they are leaving right now. The boy can barely get his words out from the shock of the sudden job offer. Carl is completely overwhelmed by the kindness, breaking down in tears as he stammers out a thank you. He is clearly moved that someone finally saw his potential. While Louise checks on their new friend, Wolfgang is mentally preparing for the lecture he is going to get from his butler. He knows he went rogue, but he is at peace with the choice. He knows he looks like a hypocrite for his methods, but he is willing to do whatever it takes to reach his goals. The future is not going to change itself. The crew arrives back at the Lehman estate later that day. The staff is waiting at the door, looking completely caught off guard by their new visitor. The maids go to town on Carl with a deep cleaning before Louise drags him to the main office to show off the results. Wolfgang looks up from his work, clearly impressed by the boy transformation. Carl is definitely not used to the high life, complaining that his new fancy clothes feel way too breezy. He looks completely out of his element in the noble attire. Wolfgang is really digging the new look, mentioning he saved these old clothes from his brother's childhood. Carl is still feeling a little self-conscious, but Louise is not having it. She gives him a beaming smile and tells him he looks wonderful. Our boy gives his official seal of approval. Carl can only manage a shy thank you. The mood shifts when Wolfgang mentions he has a few questions for their new guest. Louise is just happy to be included. Sensing the vibe, Louise makes a quick exit to head back to her room. Wolfgang is left watching her go, probably feeling like a proud dad. Carl waits for the talk to start while Wolfgang gets lost in his own head. He cannot believe how much his daughter has matured, even wishing his late wife could see her now. A quick cough brings him back to the task at hand. He brought Carl here for work, but he needs to know if the boy was actually part of the recent sabotage. He cuts straight to the point, asking if Carl has helped any adults with transport jobs lately. Carl confirms the job and drops the name Herman. Wolfgang hits the jackpot immediately. Our boy realized he just found the direct link to the sabotage. Flashbacks reveal the kid was basically an unpaid intern for a criminal. Carl spent his days shrinking luggage and keeping watch while his boss slowly turned into a nightmare. The poor kid did not even get a single coin for all that illegal labor. Wolfgang finally understands why the boy was so defensive about money earlier. Time to get specific. Wolfgang apologizes for the trauma dump but needs to know exactly what the boy was shrinking. He hands over some paper so the kid can draw it out. Carl describes a palm-sized object with a gem in the center that he shrunk down to the size of a nail. He starts sketching out the details of the mysterious tool. The drawing makes its way to the experts. One look at the paper and the room goes dead silent. The elite magic artisans from the tower confirm the worst. It is a brand new high-end communication tool that just hit the market. The expert breaks down the tech. These tools are simply magical spy cameras that transmit live video and audio to a linked receiver. Our boy realization hits hard. If these tiny transmitters were secretly attached to security locks, the entire system is wide open. The pieces of the puzzle finally fit together. Anyone with a receiver could just watch the secret codes being entered to bypass high security. Since the devices were so small, they were nearly impossible to detect. The artisan admits they never looked for this because shrinking magic is incredibly rare. Carl realizes he was an unintentional accomplice to a major crime. Time for some damage control. Wolfgang offers some reassurance and tells the boy to be honest with the authorities. Carl gives a determined nod. The testimony of the boy changes everything, sending the investigation into overdrive. The connection is officially confirmed. Every merchant who reported an incident used the same shipping company and had their locks bugged before delivery. Wolfgang looks over the investigation results and realizes the security locks weren't the problem. The unlocking codes were being skimmed and leaked exactly like a high-tech data breach from his previous life. The report explains that while some locks only respond to specific family members, others were left with generic settings. These vulnerable spots were targeted, allowing complete strangers to watch the codes being entered and memorize them. One of the witnesses recalls his encounter with the man known as Herman. He admits that despite the guy's intimidating aura, he strangely felt like he was a good guy at the time. Merchant testimony reveals that Herman was likely using a charm magic tool to manipulate people. He even tricked his customers into saying specific phrases like "may something very good happen to you" to lower their guard. Once the truth comes to light, the authorities move fast and track Herman to his hideout. The first night order kicks in the door and demands he come out with his hands up. The knights were too late to get any real answers. Herman was found dead in the middle of his dilapidated base, silenced by someone who didn't want him to talk. Wolfgang lets out a heavy sigh, realizing the mastermind just cut off their loose end to stay hidden. Before he can dive deeper into the mystery, Louise calls out to him from the doorway. Louise pops her head through the door after hearing the summons. Wolfgang tells her to hang tight for a second as he finishes up. She is clearly confused about why she is being kept waiting right outside the door. Her curiosity is definitely piqued. Christoph leads Karl into the room and the boy looks absolutely terrified while clutching a tiny box. He stammers out a greeting to the Duke and his daughter. Karl admits he messed up a few times, but he finally finished the secret project. Wolfgang gives the green light and Louise finds a stunning gold pendant waiting in the box. Louise is already obsessed, but Karl shows her the real magic. He reveals that the pendant actually clicks open to hide something special inside. Inside is a tiny portrait of the whole family, including Louise and her mother. Wolfgang explains that while the old drawing was great, he wanted a picture that captured how she looks right now. Our girl is hit with a wave of emotion and thanks her dad through happy tears. Wolfgang says that with Karl shrinking the picture, the family can finally be together all the time. Louise stares at the tiny masterpiece, realizing it captures her family exactly as they are right now. Seeing herself alongside her parents in one frame is more than she could have ever asked for. Overcome with emotion, she looks up at Karl with literal stars in her eyes. "Thank you, Karl." Our girl clutches the locket to her chest, promising to treasure it forever. Karl just blushes and tries to play it cool, acting like he didn't just do something incredible. He admits that seeing his magic actually help someone makes him genuinely happy. It is a big moment for a kid who used to think his powers were only for the shadows. Louise turns to her dad, asking if she can show her new treasure to the maids. Wolfgang gives her the green light with a proud smile. "Sure, go show it off to everyone." She doesn't need to be told twice and bolts out of the room with a massive grin. Our girl is officially the happiest kid in the world at this moment. Wolfgang celebrates his internal victory, fist pumping at the fact he finally got the best smile from his daughter. He quickly composes himself to ask how Karl is settling into his studies. "Thanks again for your hard work, Karl." Wolfgang clears his throat with a blush, thanking Karl for the hard work before checking in on how his studies are going. Karl can only stammer as Wolfgang learns that the kid is actually struggling, mostly because finding someone to teach a rare mixed attribute user is like finding a needle in a haystack. It turns out that while Karl made the pendant happen, his magic gets pretty unstable when he tries to shrink anything with a complicated design. The kid apparently took some heat for failing to shrink a magic tool in the past, so they decide to let Louise's teacher handle his training to get him ready for the business world. The teacher drops some lore, explaining that Karl's shrinking magic is a special trick that only works because he possesses both water and earth attributes. Wolfgang realizes that rare powers come with rare problems, but when our boy Karl starts feeling guilty and tries to apologize, the Duke stops him immediately. Wolfgang flashes a proud smile while holding up his own prototype locket, making sure the kid knows that none of this would have been possible without him. Wolfgang thanks the kid and mentions how happy Lulu was to receive the gift. Our boy is feeling himself after getting some praise, and honestly, seeing him this hyped is a major win. Seeing those walls finally start to crumble makes the Duke realize his plan is working for the better. The Duke is clearly satisfied with how this is playing out and knows it is a good sign for things to come. Everything Wolfgang does is for Lulu. He wants Karl to become her ultimate ally, so he is making sure the kid masters his magic and stays on the right track. The Duke dismisses the kid so they can talk business and promises to find him the perfect teacher. Solving the problems in the slums is just a bonus on top of securing a future elite for his daughter. The butler is impressed with how the boy is handling his transition to high society. His motivation to help the other children in the slums is driving him to give it his all. Wolfgang shifts gears to get a full update on the rest of the investigation. Recruitment is officially popping off. They are scanning the crowd for the sharpest minds and strongest hands to kickstart the new business. While education costs are high right now, the butler reminds him they will see a massive return on the investment in just a few years. A heavy sigh escapes the Duke as he thinks about the mounting expenses. Thankfully, the cash flow from those water pump sales is keeping his head above water. Marcus wants to dip into the main ducal funds to help out, but the offer is immediately shot down. Keeping things professional, Wolfgang insists on running the business as Count Zonder. He refuses to dump his personal projects onto Marcus right before the kid officially inherits the family title. Even with Baron Heine jumping in to help manage the district, Marcus still insists on having the Lehman House act as a sponsor for backup. Embracing a life of honorable poverty is a small price to pay for success. The only real bummer is having to cut back on the mountain of new dresses he wanted to buy for Louise. Christoph notes our boy is looking a little too excited. Wolfgang admits he can't wait to see how Karl and the whole town evolve from here. With a smirk, he confirms that everything is finally falling into place, teasing him right back. The Duke notes that even the old butler seems to be enjoying the chaos. Christoph laughs it off, warning him that at this rate, he will never actually get to retire. The mood shifts when Christoph hands over a new letter, accidentally calling him young master again. Wolfgang shuts that down immediately, reminding him he's way past that title. Taking the letter, he stops cold when he notices the unique seal on the wax. Something is off about the sealing wax. It isn't the standard royal family mark, and our MC immediately gets a bad feeling about what's inside. Back at the royal palace, our boy Wolfgang pulls up for an official audience with the king. He keeps it strictly professional, introducing himself as the acting head of the Lehman House and thanking the son of the kingdom for the summons. The king gives him a warm welcome, officially greeting him as the acting duke. On the inside, our MC is screaming and wondering how his life even reached this point. He is escaping reality, picturing his daughter Lulu and wishing he could just go home to her. Back in the throne room, the king highlights his success in stopping the barrier stone tampering. By exposing the plot and preventing further damage, he has earned respect from the highest level. He stays humble, expressing how honored he is to receive such direct praise from the throne. But the praise does not stop there, as the king brings up the success of the new well pumps and his recent work in the slums. As a reward for his service, the king officially bestows the title of Marquis upon him. Wait, hold up. The king just dropped the Marquis title on him, and Wolfgang is stuck in pure disbelief. His inner voice is screaming for a timeout. If he gets promoted, his daughter Lulu will be forced into the crown princess race, leading straight to the bad ending of the original game. Desperate to dodge the death flag, our boy tries his best to maintain a low profile. He is doing everything in his power to keep his rank low and his family safe. The crowd starts whispering as he addresses the throne. He tries to play it humble, claiming the reward is way too big for someone of his stature. The surrounding nobles are absolutely losing it. Nobody in their right mind just says no to a royal gift like that. Wolfgang is sweating because his facial blindness makes high society a minefield. He was already disinherited once for not recognizing faces. So climbing the ranks is a one-way ticket to disaster. The king takes it in stride and asks if there is anything else he actually wants. Our MC racks his brain for a request that won't ruin his life. He takes the chance to swap the promotion for a request for a magic teacher. The king is genuinely shocked that this is all he wants. He explains that he found a kid in the slums with unique potential who needs a mentor. This is a big brain move to help Karl while dodging that dangerous rank up. The king strokes his beard, acknowledging that finding a teacher for mixed attributes is no easy task. Even with royal influence, specialists like that are extremely rare. Our boy doubles down on the request, claiming it is all for the sake of slum reformation. The king is left wondering if this man really has zero personal ambition. The king finally caves and puts the promotion on hold while laughing at the perceived humility. Our boy is internally screaming with relief. Outside the palace, the royal decree is finalized as the next noble is called forward. The mission to avoid the death flag was a total success. Walking away from the throne room, he finally breathes after nearly having a heart attack. All he wants now is to get back home and see his daughter Lulu. People are losing their minds over his refusal of the promotion, but all he cares about is that annoying voice behind him. Lord Bernd hits him with a backhanded compliment that feels way too sarcastic for comfort. The probing does not stop as Peter questions his motives, even bringing up his daughter's future to guilt him into a rank up. He tries to walk it off while the rest of the nobles are left wondering if they should have turned down their rewards too. Peter keeps pushing the issue, basically calling him out for playing way too humble when everyone knows he is more than capable. Just as he tries to exit, someone slams right into him and sends his train of thought flying. Turns out the pint-sized speed bump is none other than Prince Heinrich, and the kid is already looking for a fight. Wolfgang points out the kid was the one who ran into him, but the royal brat isn't hearing it. He snaps back that a prince would never apologize to someone like him. The kid keeps the tantrum going, blaming our boy for not dodging fast enough. Meet Prince Heinrich, the angel-faced capture target who is basically a nightmare on the inside. This is the same guy who eventually drives Lulu to her doom in the original game script. Our MC asks for forgiveness if his thoughts get a little rough as he considers the prince's future. Wolfgang wonders why the prince is even out here. He can't help but voice his sympathy for the king's parenting struggles. The prince isn't exactly thrilled by the pity, so Wolfgang shifts into logic mode. He explains that with so many nobles moving around, a royal wandering solo is just asking for trouble. The prince shouts that there's nowhere he isn't allowed to go, claiming the entire palace as his playground. He seems to think he owns the place already. He tells everyone to get out of his way because they're just nuisances in his future kingdom. Lord Burnt looks on and asks if that's really how he feels. Wolfgang is totally caught off guard by the sudden shift in the air. He can only stare as Lord Burnt steps in. Peter drops a heavy hypothetical about the prince just vanishing and nobody ever finding out. The vibe goes from 0 to 100 real quick. The royal brat can barely believe he is being threatened. But Peter just smiles and doubles down. This dude has zero chill. Our boy tries to pull Peter back before he actually starts a diplomatic incident. Peter just laughs it off as a much-needed reality check. The search party finally catches up to the little runner. Peter tells the kid to go home and enjoy a nice long lecture. It is a total struggle as the attendants dogpile the prince to drag him away. He is still screaming about not being done playing yet. The staff bows out with a quick apology for the chaos. Heinrich is still throwing a tantrum as he is hauled off, promising to tell his dad. Wolfgang and Peter reflect on the bad behavior of the prince. Peter notes that anyone dealing with that brat is going to have a rough time. Our MC recalls that, in the game, the prince at least pretended to be a nice guy. He realizes this version is way more of an arrogant wolf in sheep clothing. Peter is absolutely beaming because he thinks the nickname Wolfgang accidentally blurted out is special. Wolfgang realizes he said it out loud and immediately regrets his life choices. Instead of being mad, Peter leans in with a huge grin. He insists that Wolfgang keeps calling him Paber when they are alone. Wolfgang tries to back off, stunned that the dude is not offended. Peter just laughs it off and tells him to start acting more casual from now on. Peter figures out the nickname was just a mashup of his first and last name. He actually finds the strange ring to it charming and gives it his seal of approval. It turns out Wolfgang was just using his past life logic for nicknames. In this world, using a shortened name like that means you're basically best friends forever. Wolfgang finally gives in, telling Peter he can use whatever nickname he wants just to keep things fair. Peter is already plotting the most chaotic options possible. Peter starts chanting his new favorite name like a total fanboy as they walk. Wolfgang is still stuck on the fact that this dude actually considers them best friends. With a soft smile, Peter admits he just wants to make sure he is someone Wolfgang won't forget. He makes a grand declaration about never giving up his #1 spot in the friend rankings. Wolfgang just shakes his head at how extra his friend is being. Wolfgang points out that there is literally zero competition for the role since he has no other friends. Peter is genuinely offended by his lack of social confidence. Peter lays it out for him, reminding him that tons of people and eligible ladies are dying for his attention. He warns that acting oblivious to his own popularity is actually a bad look. Wolfgang gives him a look of total disbelief, but Peter just laughs. He genuinely appreciates that they can just talk nonsense like this before heading off to his carriage. Peter leaves in his carriage, telling Wolfgang to give the little lady his best. Wolfgang is hit with a sudden realization. He starts wondering if Peter has been using that eccentric voice specifically just so he could be recognized. It actually makes sense, since that over-the-top voice is the only thing helping a face-blind guy identify his friend. Back at the estate, he decides it is finally time to dig through the noble directory and try to put a face to the name. Time flies by as Lulu hits age 7, and Marcus finally finishes up his academy days. Wolfgang is counting down the seconds until he can officially quit being the acting duke. The retirement dream is still a bit far off because he has to plan the succession party. He is currently buried under a pile of paperwork and to-do lists. From picking out the menu to organizing security and invitations, he has to handle every single detail for Marcus' big debut. Once this party wraps up, he plans to officially pack his bags and settle down in Dronzer County. Between the slum project and his regular duties, the workload is crushing him. Our boy is seeing his soul leave his body as he stares at the endless paperwork. Taking over the responsibilities of the lady of the house on top of everything else was a bad move. Just as he is about to snap, he hears a soft knock on the door. Lulu peeks her head in to check if her dad is too busy to talk. He drops the pen and tells her to come on in. One look at his daughter and he is magically recharged. He breaks out a huge smile and suggests they take a tea break together. While they sit together, Lulu asks if she can help out with the big celebration. Wolfgang goes into deep thought mode for a second. He tells her that while it would be cute to have her involved, this party is a big deal. It is way too high stakes for her to jump in just yet. This party is about more than just a new title. The prestige of the entire house is on the line, and any slip-up would leave Marcus open for mockery. Lulu is really feeling the weight of the moment. Wolfgang makes it clear that mastering her etiquette is the only way she is going to survive the event. Since this is her first major evening party, the Duke is laying down the law. She has to drop the casual act and behave like a proper count's daughter. Lulu reflects on Madame Fisher's warning about the true face of high society. Behind all that glitz and glamour is a world filled with constant hardship. Social rules for noble women are on a different level. Lulu mentions how she was taught to never speak to Emma first because their noble ranks do not match. Since Emma is the daughter of a marquise, she technically outranks the Dronzer house. That means Lulu has to stay silent and wait for her friend to start the conversation. Their old friendship is officially getting complicated by social politics. Lulu is determined to be careful for Emma's sake, but her dad suddenly snaps her back to reality. Wolfgang gets straight to the point and asks Lulu if she actually wanted the high status of a duke's daughter. Our girl looks totally confused because that idea never even crossed her mind. He lists off all the shiny perks she would have had, like better teachers, endless jewels, and even a chance to marry a prince. He is basically checking to see if his decision to stay a count is holding her back. Lulu admits that while jewels are cool, she is happiest right where she is as a daughter of the Dronzer family. Her loyalty hits different, and the MC looks like he is about to cry from pure pride. When it comes to marrying a prince, Lulu is a hard pass because she has heard the rumors about how bratty the royal kid is. Our boy is stunned that the tea on the prince is already spreading through the toddler's social circles. Hearing her say she is content is a massive weight off his shoulders, and he finally lets out a genuine smile of relief. He reflects on how he turned down a higher rank just for her sake, glad that his sacrifice was worth it. Before they can finish their tea, Lulu speaks up because she has a burning question for him too. She casually asks if he plans on getting her a new mother, and our boy literally short-circuits mid-sip. That question came out of nowhere and left him totally frozen. Wolfgang is sweating bullets and tries to play it cool. He leans in with a nervous smile and asks where she even got a crazy idea like that. Lulu explains that her teacher clued her in on why he is always swamped. Since he is doing the work of both the head and the lady of the house, he is pulling double duty. She drops a bombshell, asking if it is normal for a man to take a second wife after the first passes away. She is genuinely worried about what his next move is going to be. Wolfgang gets serious and calls her over, breaking the tension with a warm smile as he pats the seat next to him. Lulu is ecstatic and shouts out a happy yes as she runs to him. He pulls her into a hug and apologizes for making her worry about his personal life. The confession catches Lulu off guard as he admits he is on the verge of a breakdown from all the stress. He explains that Marcus is already packing up his academy dorm to step up as the next duke. Once his brother takes over the Lehman household, the workload will finally settle down. Lulu freezes up as the weight of his words hits home. Her dad is actually putting her feelings above everything else in the world. Remarrying is the noble standard, but he is not making a move without her. Okay? He leans in and puts the final choice in her hands. She finally asks the question he was likely dreading. Silence follows as she waits for the truth. Clutching her locket, she admits she is about to ask for something selfish. The request is simple. She wants her dad all to herself until she turns 10, assuming she will need a mother figure for adulthood training later. She tells him to start looking for a wife once she hits double digits. Wolfgang is left speechless by how much she has thought this through. One last squeeze of the locket sets a deadline for their duo life. Wolfgang can only whisper his late wife's name as the mood shifts. Lulu gets it. She already knows how hard it is to put yourself first in this society. Reaching double digits means the end of childhood for a noble lady. Between grooming, education, and the social debut, the pressure is real. Wolfgang is proud of how smart she has grown. The thought of her sacrificing her own happiness for the family legacy is more than he can bear. Our boy is stuck in his old ways. His modern world mindset is clashing with the reality of this fantasy land. Lulu reaches out to offer support. She promises she is not just putting on a mask as he chokes out an apology. They settle on a deal. Until she hits that 10-year milestone, she just wants him to be her dad and nothing else. We starts with our boy crying tears of joy. The transition of Marcus taking over as the official head of the house is finally finished. He cracks open the expensive wine since he didn't get a single sip during the party. The last 2 weeks were a blur of work that he barely even remembers. As the wine pours, he admits that a cold beer would probably hit better after a long day. He clinks his glass and toasts his late wife, Caddy, celebrating his final retirement from being the acting duke. He honestly feels like he crushed the job. The pressure was high when the king and that royal brat Heinrich showed up. He thought his legs were going to give out right there. Being one of the 5 great houses means an invite to the king is mandatory for a new head's debut. It is just standard royal etiquette. He assumed the king would just send a proxy, so seeing the main man in person was a heart attack waiting to happen. Give this man a break. Wolfgang notes that Prince Heinrich actually shaped up after getting scolded a year ago. Acting like a proper royal finally seems possible for him. Enough about the prince, it is time to talk about the real star, Lulu. She played the part of a noble daughter perfectly and everyone was singing her praises. The new dress Lulu wore was the cutest thing ever. Looking at the portrait of his late wife, he just wishes she could have been there to see how much their daughter has grown. The thought of a second wife still weighs heavy on him. He looks back at the portrait and asks Caddy what he should do about the request from Lulu. A knock at the door breaks the silence as Marcus stops by for a chat. He catches his brother mid-toast and asks if he was busy drinking with his late wife again. Wolfgang congratulates his brother on a killer debut, noting how different he looked out there. Apparently our boy was a total magnet for all the noble ladies. Wolfgang brags about the looks of his brother, but Marcus is not letting him off that easy. Apparently, the Duke was the one getting swarmed by women until Duke Burnt stepped in to save him. Wolfgang is genuinely confused why all these noble ladies are thirsty for a 30-year-old widower. It turns out the rumors about the attention he would get were actually true. Wolfgang officially hands over the keys to the kingdom and congratulates the new duke. Marcus is not feeling the formal vibes and tells his brother to stop calling him that. The realization finally hits Marcus that his brother is actually moving out. Wolfgang keeps it real, explaining that it would be awkward for him and Lulu to just hang around the estate forever. Marcus drops a bombshell by asking if they can just cancel the whole moving out plan. Our MC is stunned into silence by the sheer randomness of the request. Wolfgang does not get the problem since the transition was smooth, but even the butler Christoph is ready to stay on as a member of the house. The tough noble act completely crumbles as Marcus starts begging his brother to stay. He is officially in his feels and admits that he is just lonely. Wolfgang realizes the secret behind this emotional breakdown. His brother is actually hammered. The man can hold his liquor physically, but his heart is wide open. Marcus is officially a lightweight. He is sobbing for his big brother because drinking is actually banned for minors in this country. Making this his very first time, Wolfgang tries to handle the situation as the man-child regresses into a crying mess. This behavior definitely cannot happen at actual parties if they want to keep their reputation. The drunk brother starts complaining about being left out of the slum business, which leads to a hilarious collar grab. He wants to know exactly when he is supposed to step up and help. Things get serious as Marcus admits it hurt that Wolfgang kept secrets from him while the butler was in the loop. Our MC is caught off guard by what he considers important. The bomb finally drops. Marcus is heartbroken because he never knew his brother struggled to recognize faces and he feels like he was left in the dark. Wolfgang tries to play it off as him just being a protective older brother back in the day. He did not want his little bro catching any stray anxiety while he was still growing up. Marcus jumps up to show off his growth, but Wolfgang has to clarify he is talking about maturity rather than height. The younger brother just looks at him with sad eyes and calls him out for always acting this way. Wolfgang is caught off guard by his brother's sudden perceptiveness. He realizes Marcus has been watching him struggle to handle everything solo. Childhood memories flood back as a younger Marcus begs not to be left behind. He just wanted to be by his brother's side. The drunk honesty continues as Marcus asks if his brother can even recognize him. Wolfgang can only apologize for keeping his walls up while his little brother grew into a man. Wolfgang drops a major truth bomb about manually memorizing his family's faces just to stay connected. He reminds the crying man that he is his one and only brother. The emotional moment quickly turns into a logistical nightmare as Marcus tries to cancel the moving plans. He is convinced he is a burden, but Wolfgang is desperately trying to calm him down. Our MC is officially exhausted as his brother starts throwing a full-on jealousy fit over Lulu. Marcus just wants some quality time with his big bro too. The hangover from hell has finally set in as Marcus wallows in morning shame. Lulu is just confused about why her uncle is skipping breakfast. Marcus is suffering from some serious hangover regret and just wants to vanish. Lulu is worried about his health, but he is really just dying of embarrassment. Taking him way too seriously, Lulu offers her closet as a temporary hideout since they are out of actual holes. Marcus does not even respond and just keeps walking in shame. Our MC realizes he is still a sucker for his brother's puppy dog eyes. He finally gives his verbal okay and lets the night come to an end. Morning arrives and Lulu is caught off guard when her maid shows up at the door first thing. The birds are already chirping as the new day starts. She quickly assures everyone she is doing just fine and that things are finally back to normal. The peaceful morning vibe proves the drama is finally over. The big move is officially on hold until Lulu's 10th birthday. That's when she will have her sacred ceremony to receive her true name and get her magic levels appraised. Since that's 3 years away, our MC decides to just handle his new territory through regular business trips. A quick commute every few months should keep things running. Lulu is absolutely vibing, running around like she owns the place. Staying close to Emma is basically the highlight of her week. The squad pulls up to the Fisher estate for a visit. Emma is already in full host mode, shouting for them to join her in the garden. Madam Fisher welcomes our MC with open arms. She has some serious business to discuss and wants to consult with the boss man himself. Things are moving along to the tea table, but Wolfgang is locked in on a new face. He has already clocked a new player on the field and wants some answers. Introducing Rena Fisher, the eldest daughter of the house. She has that main character energy as she greets our boy for the first time. She offers a polite bow and thanks him for the flowers he sent for her big milestone celebration. The manners on this girl are top tier, but then the game lore hits like a truck. The original story says this girl should have been broken by a monster attack, but she is right here in the flesh. Our MC realizes his intervention actually paid off because he stepped up during that monster attack. Rena managed to survive and grow up into a proper noblewoman. He's the only one who knows how close she came to a tragic end. So he went all out with the floral gifts for her coming-of-age party. Seeing her in the flesh is a trip. With that golden hair and those amethyst eyes, she looks exactly like the person the original game lore described. Her smile is the ultimate proof that the script can be flipped. If he can save her, then there is definitely hope for changing Lulu's future too. Madam Fisher starts spilling the tea, revealing that Rena was so hyped about the flowers, she wore them as a hair ornament. Rena is out here dying of embarrassment. Our boy plays it cool and gives credit to his daughter for helping him pick the perfect vibe. Lulu is just happy to be involved in the flower selection process. He doubles down on the charm, telling her the flowers definitely suited her well. Rena is practically short-circuiting and can barely manage a thank you. Back at the tea table, our MC asks what the big consultation is about. Madame Fisher gets straight to the point and confirms it is all about Rena. She asks if he is hitting up the royal palace party in 2 days. He is already dreading the social scene. But she drops the real request for him to support Rena while the parents are busy with foreign guests. Our boy starts sweating and tries to play the social anxiety card. He even jokes that he will not have enough time to draw her face and memorize it before the event. The original plan was a cousin who ended up with a sprained ankle, so they are desperate. MC realizes he is basically being recruited as a professional man repellent for the night. Madame Fisher considered using his brother Marcus, but that would just ignite the gossip mills. A fake passionate romance rumor is the last thing they need for a debutante. Rena looks down with a shy apology for the sudden pressure. She admits she is still a total rookie at these evening parties and is clearly nervous. Since Madame Fisher has been so good to Lulu, our boy decides to return the favor. He officially accepts the mission, and Rena is absolutely thrilled to have him in her corner. Wolfgang jokes that he is basically going to be as useful as a wall during the event. He agrees to settle on a meeting time and figures he can at least keep Rena company until her parents get back. Lulu and Emma come charging back to the table, cutting the conversation short. Our boy is already planning to use his buddy Peter as backup if the social pressure gets too intense. The tea party is back in full swing as the girls rejoin the group. Wolfgang welcomes them back while Rena gives little Lulu a warm greeting. Lulu shows off a flower crown she made but tries to act humble about her skills. Emma is not having the self-doubt and insists she was way worse when she first started out. The moment of truth arrives when Lulu nervously asks her dad if he will accept her gift. Wolfgang does not hesitate for a second and takes it with a proud smile. Seeing their serious duke actually wear the flower crown has the whole squad in stitches. Lulu is absolutely glowing with happiness, and our MC just wants this wholesome peace to last forever. Fast forward to the big party where Wolfgang tells his brother Marcus to stop acting like a statue. As they part ways, something in the crowd catches our boy's eye and shifts his mood instantly. The gossip mill is in full overdrive as everyone tries to get the tea while some are swooning over his looks. Others are side-eyeing him for turning down a promotion and being a total rookie. Wolfgang is already regretting his life choices and just wants to go home to his daughter. He knows everyone is talking about him, but he decides to just power through the social anxiety and brush it off. Wolfgang confirms that the Fisher family has already arrived as Rena makes her grand entrance. The crowd instantly starts buzzing as she captures everyone's attention. Wolfgang stands back and observes Rena as she effortlessly commands that he is trying his best to memorize her look for later, but he is basically clueless about anyone else in the crowd. Even if his memory of her face is a bit fuzzy, Wolfgang can't deny that she is a certified beauty. He totally gets why all the other guys are staring because her presence is undeniable. Marcus drops some lore, revealing that Rena is not just a pretty face but a top-tier academy prodigy. Wolfgang realizes the man-repellent gig is going to be a lot harder than he thought given her insane stats. With some time to kill before the meeting, Wolfgang decides to go on a snack mission to fill his stomach. He spots a familiar face in the distance and realizes the quiet time is officially over. Peter spots his target and instantly shifts the vibe of the room. He is making a scene calling out for Lord Burnt while Wolfgang tries to process the sudden chaos. Wolfgang is low-key proud of his prep work. He spent a year grinding through noble directories just for this exact moment of social superiority. Peter is freaking out in the best way possible. He cannot believe Walter actually knew who he was and is treating it like a major relationship milestone. Pure main character energy from Peter right now. He is so high on this small win that he is ready to end the night on a high note. Time for a reality check as Wolfgang points out Peter left a lady hanging. He notices a new face in the crowd and starts wondering if she is part of the inner circle. Meet Beatrice, the eldest daughter of the Burnt family who has apparently heard all the tea on Lord Zonter. She handles the awkward intro with total class and a sharp smile. Wolfgang stays professional but Peter is already losing it in the background. He is desperately gatekeeping his sister and begging our boy not to catch any feelings. Peter is really feeling himself right now. He tells Wolfgang it is fine to fall for him as long as they remain best friends. But our boy just hits him with a hard pass. Beatrice finds the whole exchange hilarious. She points out that her brother clearly has a major man crush on Lord Dronzer. Over some fancy desserts, the conversation shifts to Beatrice's love life. She reveals she met her fiancé during her time studying abroad in Schendel. This party is actually her first big social appearance since returning to the country. It explains why they haven't crossed paths until now. Things take a weird turn when she laughs about her fiancé being 9 years younger than her. Peter thinks it is adorable, but Wolfgang is starting to get a little concerned. Our MC immediately does the math and realizes something is very wrong. If she met him as a student, she was basically hanging out with a toddler. Peter drops the reveal that her partner is actually from the dragonkin race. Everything suddenly clicks for Wolfgang since their aging process is totally different from humans. Turns out, dragonkin biology is a whole different ballgame. Their lifespans are double those of humans and they count their years by a completely different standard. For their race, 10 years old is already hitting that young adult phase. Peter is just vibing happy that his sister finally looks genuinely joyful. In this country, marriage isn't just a choice. It is a legal requirement for nobles. Beatrice turns the tables on her brother, asking why there haven't been any engagement rumors about him yet. The deadline for men to get hitched is 30. And since Peter and Wolfgang are the same age, the clock is ticking. He stays silent as the weight of noble expectations settles in. Peter just gives a soft, resigned smile, acknowledging that his noble duties are something he cannot run from. The chill vibes are instantly nuked when Lord Fisher comes charging in, looking absolutely terrified. He starts shouting for Lord Dronzer and Peter, clearly in the middle of a crisis. Fisher is in a total panic, asking if anyone has seen his daughter, Rena. Beatrice is confused because their meeting isn't for a while, but the sheer desperation in the man's eyes says something is very wrong. Confusion takes over as the group tries to make sense of the panic. Peter clarifies that they have been together all night and have not seen her anywhere. Fisher can barely find the words to explain how they lost sight of her for just a moment. The weight of the situation settles in as he confirms Rena has vanished. Lord Fisher is fully spiraling as he explains how he only looked away for a split second before Rena completely vanished. Wolfgang can barely believe his ears, repeating the word as the realization hits that they have a major crisis on their hands. Madame Fisher rushes into the scene, looking like she has seen a ghost. She has already checked every restroom and lounge area, but there is absolutely no trace of their daughter, prompting Peter to step in and get a clear picture of what went down. Flashback. It started simply enough when Rena casually left her seat to use the restroom while the adults were busy networking with friends. At the time, it seemed like a perfectly normal thing to do, and nobody thought twice about it. When she failed to return after quite some time, Madame Fisher went to check on her. However, she arrived to find her daughter was already nowhere to be seen, turning a simple bathroom break into a total nightmare. Back in the present, Madame Fisher is adamant that her daughter would never just leave without saying something. She knows deep down that this isn't a simple misunderstanding and that something terrible must have happened. Wolfgang tries to keep her calm, but the guilt is already eating Madame Fisher alive. She can't stop blaming herself for not going with Rena, especially since the girl isn't used to the hectic vibe of these massive evening parties. Lord Fisher is struggling to keep it together, but Peter remains ice-cold and focused. He reminds the panicked father that his meeting with the guests is starting soon and he needs to stay on schedule. The group decides to keep things quiet to avoid a scene, with Peter and Wolfgang taking full control of the situation. Peter asks his sister Beatrice to jump in and help, and she is immediately down for the mission. Beatrice reassures the group that she remembers the girl's face perfectly since they just spoke. They agree to loop in the Imperial Guard for a low-key search behind the scenes without alerting the other guests. Lord Fisher is practically begging at this point, officially putting his daughter's life in their hands. The parents are visibly shaken, but they know this trio is their best shot at finding her. Lord Fisher tells his wife Angelica to focus on the search while he heads back to keep the guests distracted. He needs to play the part of the perfect host while his world is falling apart. Wolfgang handles the guards like a pro, making sure they keep their eyes peeled without alerting the crowd. He is feeling lucky he memorized the girl's dress since he can now track her down by her fit alone. The squad splits up to cover more ground, with Peter taking the main floor while the ladies head for the private areas. They are checking every corner where a guy would definitely get cancelled for entering. Wolfgang gets stuck with garden duty, but realizing just how massive this palace is has him a bit stressed. With the crowd being this thick, finding a single exit is already turning into a whole mission. Wolfgang hits the royal gardens to find Rina, but it is basically a dating hub for nobles. Every corner he turns, there is another couple looking for a secret spot. He marches straight past a pair mid-makeout session. The sudden intrusion leaves them spooked. Our boy does not even break his stride. He tells them to carry on like he is not even there, while the guy looks on in confusion. The secondary embarrassment is real, as he worries about looking like a creep. He starts roasting the Imperial Guards for letting people get this wild in the royal garden. A muffled groan from the shadows catches his ear. He freezes, realizing someone might be in trouble. He spots a guy pinning a girl against a fountain. This is not a romantic moment, and the man sounds like a villain. Wolfgang face drops as he spots the creep. The situation just went from awkward to dangerous. Wolfgang is stuck without any guards to help, which puts his mission on a tight schedule. He needs to find the girl fast before he runs out of time. The realization hits that letting a creep like this slide now could mean his own daughter faces a similar threat in the future. He is not about to let that happen on his watch. Using his magic eye inside the palace is a major crime, so he has to handle this situation the old-fashioned way. His plan is a quick rescue and a handoff to the authorities. Our boy is really hoping this does not turn into a full-on brawl, since fighting is not exactly his specialty. He takes a deep breath and steps out from the shadows. He watches as the creep corners his target while whispering some total nonsense about her being beautiful. The guy is clearly unhinged and needs to be stopped immediately. Wolfgang decides he has seen enough and tells the piece of trash to get lost. He follows up with a massive headbutt that sends the guy reeling back. The creep hits the floor and our MC wonders if he actually knocked him out for good. He turns his attention to the shadows and calls out for Lady Rina. Our boy finally tracks down the missing girl, but seeing her tied up and gagged by the fountain is a serious wake-up call. Wolfgang moves fast to untie the gag and gets her covered up with his own coat. He starts checking for injuries while she struggles to process that he actually showed up. The floodgates finally open and she completely loses it, clinging to Wolfgang like a lifeline as the trauma hits. Wolfgang stays calm and promises to get her back to safety before anyone else finds them. The trash on the ground starts making noise and Wolfgang is really tempted to just incinerate him. He manages to hold back for Rina's sake and tells her to keep her eyes shut. Since magic is off the table, our MC decides to get creative with his revenge. He is about to make sure this creep experiences a type of humiliation that society never forgets. Our boy decides to go full petty mode, stripping the unconscious creep to make sure his reputation is permanently cooked. If the knights find him like this, there is no coming back from the scandal. He shifts his focus back to Rina and suggests they bounce before someone walks in on them. He gently checks to see if she can even stand after the encounter. She stares at the ground in shame, apologizing because her legs are basically jelly. The shock of the situation has left her physically paralyzed. Seeing her literally trembling, Wolfgang offers a carry to get her out of the garden. He stays composed while she struggles to process the offer. He scoops her up without a second thought, making the rescue look like a total breeze. She lets out a tiny squeak as she is lifted off the floor. To protect her from any prying eyes, he tells her to bury her face and hold on tight. She clings to him like a lifeline while they head back toward the party. It does not take long before he spots the Imperial Guard and calls them over. He remains perfectly calm while reporting that the search for the girl is over. Wolfgang gives the rundown to the guards, pointing them toward the gazebo where the unconscious creep is waiting. He explains that he had to step in and stop an assault, leaving the guy out cold. The guards thank him and offer a private room for Rina to recover. Our boy keeps his cool while they head off to notify the parents about the situation. Back at the main event, Marquise Fisher's soul practically leaves her body when she finally spots her daughter. She screams Rena's name as the relief washes over her. Mother and daughter are finally reunited, and the tears start flowing immediately. Rena can barely get the word mother out before the weight of everything hits them both. Marquise Fisher pulls her in for a crushing hug, blaming herself for ever letting her daughter out of her sight. It is a raw moment that leaves the rest of the room silent. As Wolfgang tries to make a low-key exit and let the family have their moment, the Marquise calls out for him to stop. He pauses at the door, realizing he is not getting away that easily. She is struggling to find the words to thank him for saving both of her children. Our MC just stays humble, apologizing for not getting there even faster. Rena takes a breath and admits she was genuinely relieved the moment she saw him rushing to help her. Wolfgang listens quietly as she opens up about the rescue. She gives him a bright smile and officially labels him her savior. Our boy notices the fears gone from her voice, realizing she is finally finding her footing again. Even while wrapped in his borrowed jacket, Rena is already looking for a way to pay him back. Wolfgang is impressed by how strong-willed she is after everything that happened. He tries to wave off any reward, but the Marquise is not hearing it. She insists that a heroic deed like this cannot go uncompensated, making things a little awkward for our humble MC. Instead of gold, Wolfgang asks if Rena would invite Louise to a tea party once she has recovered. The young lady looks a bit surprised by the humble request. He mentions that his daughter actually admires her a lot, which has Emma glowing with excitement. The energy is quickly shifting from a crisis to a wholesome bonding moment. Rena says she would be delighted to host Louise, feeling like the visit is more of a gift for her than a payment. She promises to make it happen as the night wind settles over the estate. Wolfgang waits by the massive doors, considering the political weight of the invitation. He knows a tea party with one of the great ducal houses will be the perfect classroom for Louise. The thought of his daughter being absolutely thrilled brings a rare smile to his face. That wholesome moment is immediately ruined when Peter Burnt sneaks up and commends him for playing such a major role in the rescue. As the guards haul the scoundrel away, Peter and Wolfgang exchange a few casual remarks. Peter continues to praise him, but our MC quickly passes the credit right back. Peter realizes the MC must be starving after all the commotion. He mentions he already has a room and snacks prepared nearby, inviting him to take a breather. The offer is tempting, but the reality of royal protocol is starting to set in. Our boy is stuck at the estate until the guards finish every single boring detail of their questioning. The frustration of being stuck in the palace for questioning is clearly getting to him. He is internally begging to go home and see Louise, feeling like a total empty shell in the face of this bureaucratic delay. Peter tells him he will just have to put up with his presence for a little while longer. Wolfgang snaps that there is absolutely no way a guy like him could ever replace his cute daughter. Back at the manor, Rena finally gets a moment to relax while her attend to her. Her mom mentions that her father will join them soon and asks if she needs a doctor or just a warm drink. She gives her mother a reassuring smile and says she is doing fine, even though the monster attack was a nightmare. She credits Lord Zonter for keeping her safe. She goes on to explain that since she could not walk, the man carried her all the way back in his arms. It looks like the princess treatment is really starting to get to her. Her mother cannot help but giggle and tease her about being rescued like a girl in a fairy tale. Rena is instantly flustered and tells her mom to stop. Left alone with her thoughts, she pulls the borrowed jacket closer and gets lost in the moment. She blushes while whispering the name of her hero. 1 month after the party, Wolfgang is out on a business trip in Zonter territory. While trekking through the woods, a guide warns him to watch his step while pointing out a newly discovered dungeon. He stares at the cave entrance, getting a massive sense of déjà vu. He realizes this is not just any cave. It is the demonic difficulty dungeon, the single hardest map in the entire game of AOFAN. Flashback to a few days ago at the Zonter estate. Wolfgang is relaxing with some tea while Lulu stays home with Marcus. His peace is interrupted when someone calls out to him. This is Hans Ildevo, a cat beast man and the top student of the legendary butler Christoph. He apologizes for the interruption but needs to talk shop immediately. For years ago, Lulu found Hans passed out in the street looking like a total mess. Even though his past was a mystery, she insisted on bringing him home and making him part of the Hans turned out to be a natural prodigy at butler work after training with Christoph. Now he is the head butler of the Dronzer house and just received an urgent report. He drops the news that an unregistered dungeon was found near a local village. Wolfgang jumps out of his seat the second he hears it. Monsters have been terrorizing the local village for a while now. A routine cull by hired adventurers led to the discovery of a hidden dungeon. Hans reports that the number of monsters emerging from the cave has skyrocketed. The village barrier stone is almost out of mana and they are begging for immediate assistance. Hans asks for his master's next move and Wolfgang does not waste any time. He decides to head there immediately to assess the threat. Hans is caught off guard by the sudden departure but quickly snaps to attention. Wolfgang orders him to prepare the carriage and the head butler is ready to roll. Wolfgang leaves the cleanup to the staff and locks into his gamer knowledge. He knows East Hyrule is a total nightmare for anyone who played the original game. Moving to the rugged mountains, the team reaches the entrance of the East Hyrule caves. They have already attempted a few dives, but something is definitely off. A veteran adventurer named Griselda Osti explains that magic lights are neutralized in this area. She warns Wolfgang to stay close since visibility is limited to arm's reach. Griselda explains that the dungeon is basically playing with them, warping the team back to the entrance every time they try to go deeper. Our boy realizes the exploration is going nowhere and the mission is stalling out. The vibes get even darker as she mentions the insane monster count and the fact that they are turning on each other. Before he can react, a beast leaps from the dark, catching everyone off guard, while Wolfgang realizes his magic eye is too slow to activate. Hans doesn't hesitate for a second, stepping in to slice through the monster and keep his master safe. Once things calm down, Hans drops some hard truth, calling out how useless the magic eye is in this pitch-black void. He straight up tells Wolfgang to sit this one out, calling him a hindrance because his compatibility with the dungeon is 0. Griselda checks if our boy is doing okay after taking a hit. Wolfgang just brushes it off with a laugh, acting like it was barely a flea bite. Griselda is out here apologizing for the trouble, but Wolfgang tells her not to sweat it. He mentions they were already thinking about heading back to the village to regroup anyway. Hans thinks there might be a confusion magic in the air since they keep ending up back at the start. Our boy shuts that down and reveals it is actually a warp trap. He explains that the dungeon is forcibly teleporting them, and the darkness makes it impossible to see the shift. Griselda can barely believe what she is hearing. The pieces finally start falling into place for the rest of the crew. Wolfgang breaks it down, explaining that they were being looped back to the entrance the whole time. This explains why the monsters were jump-scaring them out of nowhere. Even as pros, they could not sense anything because they were warping right into the enemy's path. The team realizes the teleporting monsters were just a side effect of them being moved around like pawns. Griselda looks at Wolfgang, realizing he is way more observant than he looks. Griselda is straight up suspicious about how he cracked the code so fast. Our boy is out here panicking, waving his hands and trying to play it cool. He pulls the most basic excuse and claims he just read a report about a similar gimmick once. Deep down, he is praying they actually buy this weak lie. A quick flashback shows his past life as a sweaty gamer grinding through the same level. This dungeon is a perfect match for a high-difficulty cave from the game AO fan. The trauma of the grind was real. It was a total nightmare of constant warping and agonizing cries that haunted every player. Wolfgang looks visibly stressed, just thinking about all those game over screens. He remembers his party getting absolutely smoked more times than he can count. Back in the moment, the crew is shocked that such a brutal place was hiding in the Dronzer territory. Griselda is still confused about how he could track his movement in the pitch black. He explains the secret, telling them that the warp points are actually in fixed locations. If they watch the ground carefully, they can find a route that leads straight to the bottom. Nostalgia hits hard as Wolfgang remembers the old-school grind. Walkthrough sites were useless for randomized maps, so he had to draw his own path with pen and paper. The mood turns cold with a single warning. A monster stampede is coming. This phenomenon involves deep dungeon creatures multiplying and surging out like an avalanche. One look at the current state of the cave proves they are on the brink of disaster. Orders are already out to summon the night orders from both major houses. The group knows they need to hurry, but the sheer danger of the dungeon is impossible to ignore. Exploration is officially on hold until the groups can link up. Wolfgang makes it clear that losing experienced fighters like them is not an option. A respectful smile from Griselda follows the order. She accepts the plan and thanks him for the concern. Back at the dark dungeon entrance, they prepare to take turns on watch. Griselda promises to be a powerhouse for the defense as long as the fight stays outside. Hans is worried about his master's mana levels after he recharged the entire village barrier solo. He's hovering like a helicopter parent asking if Wolfgang is even fit for guard duty. Wolfgang is zoned out because he finally found a second to read a letter from his daughter Lulu. He is melting over her adorable drawing of riding a horse and baking apple pie. This dude is in full best dad mode, motivated to finish work early, just to see her. He is already imagining Lulu waiting for him with a slice of pie and a smile. Hans tries to warn him about the dangerous side effects of spamming mana potions, but Wolfgang just laughs it off. He is willing to chug whatever it takes to get home to his kid faster. Fast forward 10 days into the mission and things are getting serious. A sudden shout outside the tent snaps our MC wide awake in the middle of the night. The situation in the dungeon has taken a turn for the worse. No time for coffee. Wolfgang gears up and heads out immediately to handle the crisis. The monster count is exploding faster than anyone expected. Even with elite royal units on the way, the sheer volume of creatures is turning the place into a mosh pit of scales and teeth. Big news just hit the camp. The elite unit and whirlwind shield located the monster nest on the second floor, giving our MC a momentary sense of relief. A sudden battle just triggered a monster stampede heading straight for the surface, cutting the celebration short before it even started. Reality sets in fast. If that horde spills out of the cave, the entire camp is getting deleted in seconds. Wolfgang immediately shifts into commander mode. He barks orders to wake the rest of the camp while Hans stands ready for the signal. Total main character energy right here. Our boy tells everyone to hang back and stay inside the dungeon, because he is about to turn these monsters into literal charcoal. The guards are at their breaking point as the first wave of scales and teeth lunges from the shadows. Wolfgang waves his team back and prepares to hold the line solo. He does not miss. A pillar of pure heat erupts from the ground and deletes the first wave of monsters before they can even scream. Griselda and the guard are floored because he just dropped a high-tier spell with no chant. He casually walks off, telling the soldiers to mop up whatever tiny scraps are left over. Back at the camp, Hans is vibing with a smug smile. He knows having a master with basically cheat-level observation skills makes his life way easier. The flames are doing work, turning wolf monsters into smoke as they try to scramble away. Wolfgang notices the numbers dropping fast, just as Griselda and the others come rushing out of the cave. Griselda looks pretty stressed as she explains they just could not hold the line. The monsters were pouring out too fast for them to stop the leak. Instead of a lecture, our MC gives them a pass and says they did great just by finding the nest. The dog-eared adventurer is just standing there in shock, wondering what kind of crazy fire magic she is witnessing. The fire has not finished the job yet. Two monsters lunge through the heat, teeth bared and ready for round two. The team realizes his magic is basically a targeted strike, since it only burns the monsters and leaves the trees alone. Griselda and the girl jump into action to delete the stragglers, turning this into an easy win. Fighting in the open air is a game-changer compared to those cramped dungeon halls. Our MC realizes this is the meta for easy wins. Griselda is not about to let anyone slack off until the area is cleared. She wants every monster deleted before they can even think about running away. Hans finally breathes a sigh of relief as the chaos settles into a manageable vibe.